Welcome to the 6th episode of Taking Names. This is, of course, my Elden Ring playthrough, and we've just defeated the Academy of Raya Lucaria, and we get dumped at the Church of Vows, and we also meet a big giant tortoise, which I'm sure will become important later. But what I want to do in this episode is do a lot of the area of Lernia of the Lakes East. So here I'm fighting Tibia Mariner again, and we've already fought him before in Limgrave. He is one of the easiest bosses in the game so far, because the game pretty much dictates that you have to fight him on horseback anyways, and so you're able to just run away from his area of range attack, and it's pretty easy on horseback. But you get a few nice items. You get a death root and an ashes, so it's pretty worth fighting him. Now the next area I wanted to do was the Carian study hall, because I thought that would lead to the Divine Tower, where I could change my Remembrance of Full Moon reward for the Great Rune. Except I wasn't able to get right to the top and get to the Divine Tower, but I thought I would just explore this area anyway. Make sure that you don't just walk under those hands. But there is this rather difficult mini-boss in this area. She shoots a lot of magic arrows and magic attacks, and I wasn't really sure how to play her, so I kind of just decided to do this with a bow and arrow and just do it from long range. But there was a good reason to fight a bow and arrow, because there were other enemies in this area as well. So if you get too close to her, there'd be other enemies that would attack you. Now I've got to say, I did not enjoy fighting these rats along these beams here. I had a few close calls where I shot with them with bow and arrows, but then they would come closer to me, and I almost fell off a couple of times. But as you can see here, I think I need another item to lower that staircase, so I didn't have that yet, and we'll be back to cover that at a later stage. Now I decided to go and do Ainsel River next, and there's this big giant golem out the front here, and once again these guys are not that difficult to defeat. Now this next area is where the giant insects come in, so I understand if you don't want to watch, because giant insects also creep me out a little bit. Especially given that Elden Ring is kind of a creepy game anyway, with a very creepy aesthetic, almost a very horror-like aesthetic. But at first I wasn't really sure what to expect, because these ants were pretty disgusting, even though they're just ants. Now, From Software were also pretty cruel, I gotta admit, to hide them everywhere. And you can see that you got to be careful wherever you're going to be walking. They could be right on top of you, and you just got to go slow in this Ainsel River area. Even when you think you're safe, you're probably not, and you're going to get attacked from both sides. And it makes for a tricky fight as well, especially here in this tunnel where they're coming at you from both angles. Rather like a pincer attack, I suppose. But it can get a little bit tricky if you're stuck in the tunnels. Now, even though I'm pretty creeped out by this death and horror aesthetic, I do appreciate the level of artistic excellence from Software. So I am really impressed with their art style. This next area was actually really tough. There's maybe like even 15, 20 of these zombie guys, and they look like they have pretty strong defense. And I ran out of arrows at one stage, and I decided to just jump down and attack them. But once they had me cornered, it was pretty easy for them, because they were pretty quick with their attacks. So I found that really the only way that I could defeat them was actually just to use this elevator here to just bide some time. And so I would run up and down this elevator where they couldn't attack me, and then they would just walk away, and then I would go down there again and fight them again. So once you get past those zombie creatures, you have this moth spider-like creature that looks like it's pretty tough with that magic attack. But if you can get closer to her and then use your bow and arrow, she's actually very easy. So that was an easy, I think almost 4,000 runes of experience points. But all you really have to do is get up to this column here and then just shoot her down. And then from there, once you get to this next site of grace, it's a very quick walk to the next boss, which is the Dragonkin soldier of Nokstella. He was the toughest boss that I'd fought up to this stage because he has very strong melee attacks, but also his ranged or area attacks are very far-reaching as well. So he could be all across the other side of the stage, and then he could still attack you with his lightning spell. As you can see here, sometimes he's going to get you with those hand stomps, and then he's just going to keep going over and over again. So he's pretty tough to beat when you're under him, trying to hit him with melee attacks. And then if you're trying to roll out to heal or do something else, his area of range attacks are really far reaching. As you can see here, his lightning spell can still pretty much get me even across the other side of the stage. And as you can see, this is actually my first try at trying to defeat him. I'm trying to get away from his area of attack spells, but I'm not able to do so. And I thought maybe there was a chance for me to actually defeat him if I got lucky. But he managed to get me on this try. But I thought it was a pretty good effort for a first time. I got really close to defeating him. So this is my attempt where I finally managed to defeat him. And the first thing I did was use my bow and arrow, because that would actually allow me to knock off some of his health before he even got to me. You can see here in this very early stage, he doesn't really do that much. So you can knock off quite a bit of his health for basically for free, really. Once he swipes, you want to dodge that and then just hit him a few times. Also, make sure you have your Lone Wolf's Ashes already summoned at the start of the battle, because that's going to help you distract him. And there are times where if you haven't done that, it's a lot harder to get off your health potion. So you can see here that while he's walking towards you, you can hit him a few times with your bow and arrow. Once he swipes at you, then you can go in for a couple of free hits. Then you got to get out of there as soon as he does his hand stomps. But if you have your Lone Wolf Ashes, then that frees you up to cast other things as well. So having him there at least allows you to distract him for maybe half of the battle, so that you can get a few health potions off. And also I also used a Wondrous Flask as well, where I increased my strength and other attributes. And that way I was a lot stronger in melee, where I didn't fall down as easily when he hit me. And that's really important at the end of a battle, when you get really close and you just want a couple more hits, and you're able to get those hits out because you didn't fall down. But even still, I found this battle pretty difficult, because I really had to watch out for my health, and knowing that anytime that he did a big swipe or did a big hand stomp, that could potentially end me. And sometimes you just need a bit of luck as well, because there are times where you go for that health potion and it doesn't happen, and there are other times where you do your health potion and then he runs away. So you do need a bit of luck to be able to defeat him. But that about does it for this episode of Taking Names. Thank you so much for watching my series. And in the next episode, we're going to do Learning of the Lakes West, and there's a ton of stuff to cover there. So I will see you guys in the next episode.